My name is Martijn Van Strien. Right now I am a cycling video maker, but before I started cycling I used to be a sustainable fashion designer. Recently I think I'm finding that those two are coming back together somehow, which I really like. When I was a kid I think I was creative, but I didn't really have any really creative hobbies. I was more interested in technical stuff, so building stuff, gaming, anything that had to do with technology, science, maths. Those were the type of things that I was interested in. So a little bit by random, I started off taking a design course at the local technical university, and there I discovered that I did love creating stuff and thinking about how things should look, and that aesthetics are something that you can work with and that you can tell a story with, which is something that I never really thought about before. So after studying this really technical side of design, I decided that I wanted to go all the way into the creative aspect of it. Switched schools, and at this school I found the freedom to combine these two things that I've thought were really interesting. So more the technical side with what kind of materials you use. I learned how to weave, I learned how to knit, I learned how to dye fabric. So all the basic techniques that are used to create a textile and in the end a garment were what I was really interested in. And then on the side I was looking further and further ahead to the future, to the problems that exist in the way we use materials, in the way we create things that maybe we don't really need. During these studies I learned how the fashion industry works, how fast fashion works, how much clothing we actually produce and ship all over the world. I learned that even 30% of the garments that are being produced are never really worn because they are produced for 2 seasons in advance. Maybe we think next summer is going to be really warm. If it's a little bit more rainy like this year, none of the summer clothes are being sold. So at the end of the season they are discounted, and then afterwards everything that wasn't sold is just going to trash. I thought and still think that this is a really terrible system, and I hoped that with my technical background and my interest in how clothing is being made, I should be able to develop a system that creates only the clothes that we actually need or that we actually want to wear. So when I finished my studies, this was the main idea that I started developing collections with. I wanted to produce clothing on demand, on the spot where they were actually needed. I used new technological production techniques like laser cutting, 3D printing to develop these clothes that you could make basically anywhere. But after about 3 years, I discovered that all the things that I was making on my own, in my bedroom, working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, I was still creating collections of clothing that were really interesting to look at, really interesting to talk about, got picked up by a lot of media. I did presentations all over the world talking about how these production techniques would work. They got picked up by Lady Gaga, were worn by her in one of her videos. That got me a lot of attention. So people were really interested in the designs. And that was frustrating me because I wasn't doing this to be creative and to create things that were looking really special, but I wanted to solve an actual problem that I saw, and I wanted to produce clothes in a more sustainable way. So at some point I just decided that I needed a break to think about what I was doing and see if I could discover a new way to work on solutions that I actually wanted to work on. So I bought a really cheap secondhand bike, found other people that were also riding their bike, and I find that riding my bike a lot is exactly what I needed. It allows me to clear my head and look from a different perspective at the problems that I saw in my head, or give me fresh energy to start working on something again. And I guess it was after about 6 months that I realized that, hey, it's already 6 months that I haven't really worked on this fashion thing. Shouldn't I be going back? And to be honest, it was the last thing on my mind that I wanted to go back, because I discovered a new way of life. I was enjoying being out, being with people, trying new things. I started making these cycling videos just for fun. So I just felt relieved and kind of free not to have to go back to my tiny room trying to solve the world's problems on my own. So in my mind I kind of left behind this whole design and fashion world, But of course still I enjoy aesthetics, and I find that the people that I ride and work with now are also really creative and also have a background in design, or fashion, photography, or some kind of other artistic side. And I feel that this creative energy still exists in my cycling life as well. By sharing my own personal cycling adventures in the stories that we tell, I'm also meeting a lot of new people, I'm riding in new places. And I think it's really cool that I see a lot of people now that are also thinking about sustainability in all different kind of ways. How to preserve a forest, how to make sure that we as cyclists don't leave any waste when we're bikepacking, for example. And it makes so much sense because as a cyclist, you're enjoying nature, you're riding outside. It seems so obvious that you would want to preserve this. I think I'm more and more realizing that instead of working on something alone, it's so much better to look for other people that have similar visions and try to work on stuff together. It's so much more fun, it's way more rewarding. So I'm really proud to be working together with a cycling apparel company that's really trying to make a difference. We're working together in a worldwide system to produce not only good but also sustainable clothing. So I guess the way that I'm living now, working now, and still thinking about a sustainable future, I'm convinced that we all actually feel the same way about this, at least everyone that rides a bike.